What's going on, everyone? Falcone here, live from Helping Our Music Evolve in East Nashville, Tennessee, and welcome to Falcone Friday. Man, Kenny is in the building. What's up, brother? How are you doing? I've known this guy for a while now. A friend, mutual friend, Christina, introduced us probably, what, 10 years ago now? So shout out to Christina. Love you. And we hope you're feeling good. So today we have his song, It's a Good Day, or just called Good Day. Amazing Players. Also goes by Ghost, so I'm going to call him Ghost. You want to tell us a little bit about the song?
This is a song that I produced for an artist named Milana Parati. So Milana, she is out in Scottsdale, Arizona. And this was the first song she ever recorded. We don't have the vocals in this session, unfortunately. But the band, in Nashville, we're blessed to have these great musicians who get together and they'll just knock out a song for you in an hour. And so you bring them a little retarded demos. Come in there, literally an hour later, you walk out with a song. Stellar musicianship all the way around. So that's kind of what we did here on this session, and then I would take this session back home. This is just a snippet of the music that we did that day, that hour session. So I'm excited to have you working on it and showing us your magic. So back to you.
Oh, man. And look at that. Perfect timing. The song ends. Yeah, we like timing. Cool. Yeah, and you can tell that this is a very well-recorded track, and it's got everything we need. And I always joke and say, let me not try to mess it up. That's what I have to do with this one. So it's 6:02, and I'm going to go ahead and start. So I did a little work before here, kind of just setting up things how I usually like them. I have a drum bus, an instrumental bus, a vocal bus, but there's no vocals, so that's not going to be in there. A main bus, and then a master bus. A couple of reverb set up. And then I did kind of my normal drum processing. I have we have two kick drum mics, internal and external kick. I bus those to a single track, and then from that track, I stem a parallel send off into another aux track, and then I bus both of those into the main kick bus track. So the dry signal and the parallel signal combined into its own bus. I do that same thing for the snare. I send all the toms to a tom bus, all the overheads and the hi-hat to an overhead bus, and then a bunch of room mics to a room mic bus, and then all those go to the main drum bus over here on the left-hand side. Tasty. Nice. Thank you, sir. And then same here with the bass. I have the one bass guitar. I have it going into a bus. Then it goes to a parallel track and then into its own bass master bus. And then that goes to the instrumental bus. Guitars go to the guitar bus. Acoustics go to the acoustic bus. Keys go to the keys bus. All that gets bussed to the instrument bus. And then the same thing would repeat if we had vocals. So that's where I'm going to start. And yeah, so here we go. And this is marked very well, so you can see in Pro Tools we got these markers. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the drums. And let's see if there's a section where they kind of just groove. So right now I'm just going to solo each one of the drums and see if I can dial in a sound real quick. So I like to use SSLs on drums. So I'm gonna see what I can do. Check the phase. So I'm pretty much in phase. All right, and then I'll go ahead and put a little of that secret sauce on the kick drum here. Um, this is a plugin that you can open up VST and AU Pro Tools, so you don't use AX. Mm-hmm. Camel Crusher. Oh, EDM trick. I mean, feels solid. Um, so what I'll do is I'll probably, and this is cool because there's actually multiple slots here, so I can add another plugin here. Let's see. Oop. Filter out. Yeah, 90, 96 dB filter. I mean, that alone, just how much? Yeah, just how much that all. Let me see what I can do here. And this is where I like to play. Yeah, I might, if I wanted, go like this and see what happens here. Fader. And then I'm gonna let's see if I could dial this in a little bit. Music up a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna stick with that for now. Go to the snare drum real quick. And then I might dive in with this bad boy first and get this ring out of the snare drum. Summer. And I'll probably do this. I'm going to do it over here actually. On the main. Then bye bye. Another one somewhere in. I mean, that's fun. Just tightens it up a little bit more there. And then I copy this Camel Crusher guy over to the snare. And maybe maybe adjust this and this a little bit. Yeah. Just anything you want it to be. There's that. Let's see what I got up for. Yeah. What about this? Yeah. You like this? Fucking ridiculous. Yep. And then a little bit of that. And then I'm going to send these reverbs to the main bus so that can go through all our processing. And then I'm going to put a little reverb on the snare. That's why that wasn't supposed to be used. I get it now. So we're going to change this to 35 and 36. And this is 37 and 38. Okay. So a little. Without the reverb. The verb. Okay, so fat down there, so I might just add up a little bit. I got some tom parts. Let's go listen to that. Woo! Let's have some fun with these bad boys. Toms are like the most fun and most difficult things to play around with, yeah, that's so powerful and impactful, but it's really hard to track them and to get them to be clean. Um, let's see what we can do. SSL is like the go-to for this for me. Question was if I stick with the E channel or G channel. I like for drums and instruments, I go with the E channel. Vocals, I do G channel. Did I just say that right? Yeah, E channel for more instruments, and then G channel for vocals or synth stuff because of that times three and divided by three button allows you to get more high end or like extra low end to like cut with.
There's people out there who may not know the difference. There are two options usually available in the waves or the UADs, and so they both have different characteristics that are unique. They're still SSLs, but they have a different purpose. There's the G channel there. So the E channel is black, the G channel is gray. And show them what you're talking about that.
So the major difference between these two channels is the EQ sections here. You have on an E channel, you have a bell curve here button that you can engage. So this is a high shelf and a low shelf. And when these is engaged, it turns this into a bell EQ on your high bands and low bands. And on the G channel, you have a times three button and a divided by three button, and that applies to your high mid frequencies and your low mid frequencies. So what that does is, so this EQ here, the knob goes to 7K, right, on the in the high mid frequencies. But when this button is engaged, this times is all these frequencies by three. So essentially, this is making it 21K. So that adds the high air band that is so popular in pop music or female vocals or anything that sounds like it's just open and airy. Right, it's up in like 21K, and there's another plugin by Mag, and Nipro makes the analog box back in the day. There's the airband goes up to 40K. So just by turning that up, it just literally sounds like it takes a blanket off of your mix, but it really doesn't do anything to your high end to actually make it sharp. It just kind of makes it airy sounding. So that's why I like to use this on vocals or anything that needs that kind of to sit above the mix. And then also there's the -3 button at the bottom, or divided by three button, which then turns these your low mid frequencies from 200 to 2K, cuts divides those by three. So if it's a 1K, or 800K, you divide that by three, and you get a lower frequency. So then that's a bell curve then in those frequency ranges that are not available in the shelving EQ, on the low end and high end. So that's the main difference between the two, and the dynamic sections act a little different, as far as sonic quality goes. But I've worked on a G or an E console for the last 10 years, so I know how that reacts. So, but I also know how a G plays in how that kind of you can get a tonal difference or just a quality difference, as far as character and what you're doing. A lot of hip hop and pop stuff uses the G. So whenever I do drums, I always do the E. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. So I mean, and then there's also that whole battle or the argument of, do you put the compressor on the input or do you put it on the output, and listen to the difference. So now you can see I have 100 hertz jacked up 15 dB. That's why it's smashing it so much on the output. But it's a different sound if you can hear what's kind of doing. And I usually, and this is my mentor Dave. He taught me when to use these, because when I was first doing this and trying to learn how to use an SSL, it was like I had no idea what I was doing. I was just pressing buttons and just like turning knobs, and oh, that sounds good. But then, he shed light on like when you would use these things and why you would use these things. So it's like, if you want to control something, um, and not have it be so dynamic, but yet you want it to kind of sit in a place to where, almost like a limiter. It's like you have a limiter and you can push a level into it and it won't go past a certain spot, but it seems like it gets louder because you're pushing up all the peak information down and RMS information up. It's kind of the same concept, to where it's like I'm EQing before driving more gain into the compressor, and then that, depending on what your threshold and ratio is set on your compressor, it keeps it locked in. And SSLs are known to, like, they kind of have this sweet spot. So once you find the gain structure the right way and you drive these things a certain way, there's it's like something just like kind of pops out and comes to life uh, with the dynamic section. So it's kind of a dance to how much input gain to how much like EQ gain you're putting into it, and then at a certain point, it just there's this magic that happens and it comes to life, and you kind of just take your hands off and be like, yeah, that was it. So um, easier to do than with the plugin, but still you can kind of shape sounds that way. So um, so let's see. Yeah, so this is gonna be these are be tough, but because there's other these are direct mics, which won't be as important, considering we have a lot of overhead mics and room mics that kind of take up the more natural tone of the drum. This is like putting your ear right against the drum head, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds like shit because it's that loud right there, right? And you get the stick and the vibration of the head, and your microphone's this close away from it, so you hear all more of a natural tone. But when you hit a tom in the room, it sounds great. So we're going to use more of that to capture the overall picture of the drum set. But this is we're going to dial the individual drum in to get that thump, the meat of the drum, and the more timbre and characteristic of the drum will come from the overhead. So I'm not too worried about how they sound in solo. So if it sounds muffled in solo, that might be okay. So
That you're bringing that up because people, when you're trying to shape the sound you want, think you got to get it all out of that one track. But if you purposely plan to record certain room mics and certain directional mics or whatever, then you don't have to shape the whole tonality of that whole tom within that. You're going to combine it with the room mics and other sound you want, so you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself to try to get this perfect sound. Yeah, you want to get the foundation of it correct, but you also want to use the room a certain way to make sure you're getting the whole.
and that kind of adds to what I usually say about tracking on input. Like the biggest thing for me when I went out to LA was how much they actually commit on the recording end. Like Dave would literally mix the drum set on input. So it would be the drums would be slamming on input, compressing and EQing. That's when they say, get sounds. When you're trying to get sounds, that's what that means. Is like you're trying to get the drum to sound as big and fat as a drum kit cracking through the speakers as possible as fast as you can. Right, and printing it into tape that way, and kind of as to what we just talked about is it's less. Oh yeah, so what that there was too much low end on the tom or too much low end on the kick drum when you came in. At least now you have that, so now you could start carving away from that. So the mix process then becomes less about how am I going to fix it in the mix or how am I going to create this sound. No, in the moment you created that sound, you made a decision, you committed to something, and then that was the picture you're starting from. It had it all there because you added it there when you were recording. Now it's just like, okay, how do you make all those pieces fit together in a mix? And that's where gain structure and all this extra kind of stuff comes from. So yeah.
Say the really, really, really great engineers like Dave, and I've used several in town here in Nashville, Joe Baldridge and others, that are just what makes them so top of the line to me is they do that very thing. And when I get the files and I take them back home, all I do is bring everything up to zero, and it sounds mixed already because they did every single thing on the front end, from leveling, compression to sound, whatever they're doing to capture that. So I don't have all these faders looking all crazy. I literally bring everything up to zero almost, and it sounds like it's mixed already. And I have to do very little to get the sound that I want because it's been captured already up front versus just kind of recording it, and then you've got all this massive work to shape your sound on the back end.
And then you're also it's like you wonder why can't you get your stuff to hit as hard or to be as loud? Well, because they're already doing that stage once when they're recording, and so they're cranking the volume and cranking gain there. And then you get into the mix stage, you have a whole nother set of gain and EQ and dynamics that you can use, further making it even louder. So if you're just recording, on your Apollo, or your Digi-Rack or whatever you have at home, Scarlett or whatever, and you don't have, control over microphones or preamps, and you're just literally recording so you don't hit the clip meter, there's no way you can compare being able to compress and EQ and dynamically control on input, allowing you to use your headroom way more efficiently, than just recording straight in. You can use the same bits of recording either way, but one is going to sound a perceived volume shift louder because you're driving it more. So, yep. Hashtag Geek Talk. Hope that was useful. Back to the Toms. Okay, let's see. And then I'm gonna use our friend the camel crusher on this guy too, just to get some body on the bottom, and then we can control the gain from there. And now I can then go back in with a little. And find this. All right, so that's sounding pretty cool. I'm gonna add, what was that, 35 and 36? This to the reverb too. Okay, let's get another section here. Okay, so we want to also, I don't think, we want to take all, this isn't a hit, right? Okay. No, we want to take this stuff out of here. Because that stuff's going to get annoying after a while. And what we can do is maybe we can put a gate on after this and see if we can control it better here. Yeah, so we're going to have to delete these. You can also use this handy feature called strip silence under here, and then you click on a waveform and you can set your threshold, your minimum and then you can try to set it as close as you can to getting all the just the hits themselves. So and then we have to adjust the end. It's very tricky, so sometimes it's worth doing this and sometimes it's not. So I'll just show you. I can just extract those. Oops. Just kidding. Strip those. Okay, you get the point. Uh, you just go out and do that for the rest of the song. So I can move on and let's get the. I just want to get these overheads dialed in a little bit. I usually like to start with like a C6. On where the cymbals are going to be. And then maybe a little bit this bad boy. There's our tom friends. And let's see what we can do to sweeten this up a little bit. Okay. Let's see, there's some smash mics or some room mics. Let's see. Ambient mic. What's this one say? Ride mic. Okay. Those sound cool. So we're gonna go 1176. All buttons in. Some secret sauce, ready? So this plugin is the craziest thing on the planet to me. It's called directional EQ, and it's like a spectral shaper EQ. So like you can pick a certain point within the stereo field in degrees to laser precisely EQ a section. So for example, you see negative 18 degrees. So if our speakers are backwards, but so you'll see that's supposed to be over there, but based on the cue, right? Well, it should be acting right, but it's not. So it's at 18 degrees, right? Like if I moved it more, that's totally panned. 18 degrees. It's because our speakers are backwards, but that it's going opposite. But so I could say, okay, at 18 degrees, I want to turn up 2K. Right? And I'm only going to turn it up at that point. Or turn it down at that point. Right? And then these act as level controls. So, for example, if you want to make something more mono, then at 0 degrees, which is your mono, or you want to make it less mono, then you pull it back and gain. Now it gives a perception that it's more stereo, but really you just took the mono signal and pulled it back in gain. Right? So now all you have is what's in the stereo field. Or if you wanted to make it more mono, I turn up that. Or if I just wanted to get some of that low mid, right, out of the middle, but keep it in the sides, I got it. Right? So now I'm just taking it out of that middle chunk at 0 degrees. But if I wanted it to put it over here, now 700 is gone or from that side, but it's fucking us up. So it's a pretty cool plugin to use to manipulate the stereo field. So I usually like to pull things out in the middle, and then I like to put these to high shelf here, and then like find a high frequency. So that's kind of a fun little plug-in. It's cool, right? Pretty fun. I always was like, because I do a lot of stereo imaging stuff in like dance music, and I'm like, man, I just wish I had an EQ that I could pick a point in the stereo field and be like, I want that, because essentially like this is so powerful, because it's like when you have a full mix and you have like background vocals here and there's guitars there as well, and it's like they're both in the same frequency range, but it's like kind of over here with the panning, right? So like that, it's like, okay, directly where they overlap, I can cut like 2.5K, right? Just like a dB in the guitars just at 18 degrees, so that vocal just pops through over it in that little space, and then the rest of it still has that frequency range. You know what I mean? It's just like the more and more you know are into the mixing stuff, it's like you start to realize like you're limited by your tools, and like your creativity is kind of dependent on what tools you have, and like that's just like a crazy tool. I think it's like $30 that plugin right there. So DDMF directional EQ, small plugin company, but amazing stuff that they make. So cool. So we got No smash mic going. So got a nice little drum set going. Let's see how our masters are doing. So on this section, I set up I use master faders for to attenuate or add level to the input of the bus. So I have a master fader set to the drum bus. So when I turn this fader down, I keep all my level for my individual tracks because I'm less concerned about those peaking versus like the main bus being overloaded. So I let those tracks do what they do, and then this fader right here literally just trims the input level to that bus, so it doesn't affect anything else before the chain. So that's why I can have it down here low to begin with, and just again, I always say this. It says like I just randomly started doing things, and I randomly set my levels because I know my speakers so well. Like I know that my level on my drum bus is pretty spot on. You can see that it's, and my everything. I didn't touch any of this. It was all sitting the same, and I'm just barely kissing my drum bus compressor. Yeah, it's a little hot, right? But that can be solved by either putting a limiter on the snare drum, or I just take this master bus down a little bit, right? So now it's like, but I like that because I like what it sounds like when I'm hitting this API 2500, right? So I can maybe adjust my threshold down a little bit. Like that. So I know it's sounding good here. And then I look at my master or my main, and that's jumping around like I like it to. I might just do something like this though. And then turn this up. And then there's toms, yep. And that's where you want those things to kind of grab. All right, and I can do that same thing here. I can say, okay, let's set this bus to the main bus, and then I could trim what's going into that bus because I don't mind it overloading this 2500 because it sounds good. Doesn't matter if it that light's on. That could just be for a fraction of a second. So then I can trim my main bus back down a little bit, maintaining my gain structure along the way. So we got a little time left, so let's get this bass guitar in here because we love bass. I had the parallel, and then so let's. I'll go ahead and just mute. All right, let's do a little, if I go a little bit over, that's okay. A little fun EDM stuff, because I do most of that stuff, but there's really, really cool techniques to use in other styles of music to what they do to make their track so powerful. So one of those things is, I can keep it at this slope, is rolling off your bass a certain way, and then using a parallel track to get the sub bass right. So usually we just cut off everything above 100 hertz and below 30 hertz, right? So Then I'll send a send here. I'm gonna do a pre-fader for now so we can just mute the original. And all right, so that's just the sub information. And what I could do then is use my Camel Crusher. All right. And sometimes I experiment doing this in reverse. Just cutting this, which seems to be a little bit better. And theory behind this would be because I want a rock solid sub all the time. I want it always to be there. And then you can even take like a limiter and then so I always have my low end there, and then I can come back and cut a little bit of the super lows. And then I can go back to the let's see here. That's pre-fader. I can okay, so let's see. And then I like to take the kick drum, so I can say coming from, wait, where would that be? Go back to my kick bus here. I could say, let's send a bus from another track here, so 39, and I'm going to turn that up, and then I'll put a side chain here on 39, and then I'll go over here, and I'll find
always does that on this plugin. Come on.
Let's see what I'm at. I'm on 512. Yeah, this will give me some more love right here. So we're pretty much done. I'm just setting this limiter and then, come on. About all it's gonna give me. So let's see if I close down these windows and if we can get just a little part here. Never likes me. Boy, but those two plugins make such a big difference. Jeez, man. Come on. Sorry about that, Ghost. All right, guys. So that's the end of the program. I think we got it sounding pretty good in an hour or so. So, thank you, brother.
Amazing.
Appreciate it, brother.
It was incredible watching some of your techniques and what you're doing, and we're parring on the same page, but yet you had a few different things that you may have done different. But man, the sound is incredible. Now I want to remix the whole song again. As a matter of fact, I may maybe bring the vocals over next time. Maybe we can import those in, and then we can show people how to dial in and finish the song. Maybe we could talk about that, and if you guys want to hear that or see that.
I think that would be a great idea. Because a lot of the times we don't have this level of professional, players on our stuff or on our show, So it's nice to, show everyone how fast you can do things if you have great players who have awesome instruments, right, and that are recorded pretty damn good. You know what I mean? And so they create the dynamic in the song. So it's like I didn't even mix anything yet, and it's already coming to life. I got sounds and I balanced things, but I didn't like mix things. So it'd be nice to bring in the vocals and show them how we treat those in the kind of similar fashion, and then kind of how the mix part of it comes together, the choices that you make and what instruments to feature at what time, and and writing vocals and effects and all that stuff. So
Yeah, it really is a hit song. Nobody's heard the vocals to this yet, but it's a great, well written song. The chorus, the melody lines, everything. I mean, it really is a hit song. So you're kind of seeing how this could be kind of built from start to finish. And you didn't see the songwriting portion of it, but you heard how great the music sounds now. So you guys can get to hear the vocals the next time, and then we can put a final bow on it, and you guys can hear a hit song being mixed from start to finish.
in probably 2 hours. So there you go. So
Good job for 1 hour.
no doubt. So all right, thank you so much. All right, man. Well, Falcone here from Helping Our Music Evolve in East Nashville, Tennessee. Every Friday we do the dance. So thank you so much for tuning in and commenting, and we'll see you next time. Peace. Enjoy your Fridays and your weekends. All right. Here we are.